Welcome to this explainer. If you are a law firm partner or maybe you run an in-house legal team here in Africa, profitability is probably something you think about constantly. Today, we're unpacking some incredibly valuable insights from Pocket Advisor on how you might literally be leaving profit on the table. The truth is, without even realizing it, a lot of legal practices are relying on outdated systems that just bleed revenue. So over the next few minutes, we're going to break down the exact operational shifts highlighted in the material and explore how implementing legal project management can absolutely transform your margins. Let's get into it. So I want you to give this some really honest thought. Where exactly is your profit leaking? It's kind of an uncomfortable truth to face, right? But the reality is most law firm partners can't tell you exactly where their profit is draining, or worse, why their current pricing model is structurally set up to work against them. You might be dealing with operational headaches, constant pushback from clients, or margins that just don't match the sheer amount of effort your team puts in. And here's the kicker. The root cause usually has absolutely nothing to do with the quality of your legal work. It's actually the fundamental design of your billing approach. All right, let's dive straight into Section 1, the broken billing trap, and look at why these models are flawed by design. Okay, let's look at this comparison, because this is where the real friction lives. Over on one side, we've got the traditional billable hour. We all know it, we all use it. But think about the dynamic it actually creates. It's inherently adversarial. Every single hour billed gets scrutinized, and frankly, it rewards internal inefficiency. Think about it. If a junior associate takes 8 hours to do a 4-hour task, they're treated as a revenue line, not an operational problem. You're essentially rewarding the slowest typist in the office. It completely erodes client trust, because the conversation shifts away from the value you delivered to just, hey, why did this cost so much? Now, the natural reaction is to just jump over to fixed fee pricing. But wait, fixed fees without intense operational discipline, that is incredibly dangerous. You're basically just guessing at the scope. When a matter inevitably runs over, the client is perfectly protected, but you, the partner, absorb that loss straight out of your own margins. So neither of these models is the complete answer on its own. Which brings us to Section 2, the hidden profit drain, or as we like to call it, the silent wastage in law firms. To actually stop that drain, we have to totally separate the concept of growth from scaling. Growth is just linear. It means you add more resources to increase your revenue. More lawyers equals more money, right? But scaling is an entirely different beast. Scaling means you're increasing your revenue without proportionally increasing your resources. That is how you turn your practice into a true compounding asset. But here's the catch. Eliminating internal waste is the absolute prerequisite to achieving scale. If you don't cut the waste, you're stuck just growing linearly forever. So, what does this waste actually look like in the trenches? Well, the International Institute of Legal Project Management identifies 6 categories of endemic legal waste. As I run through these, I want you to mentally check off the ones happening in your own firm right now. First, there's overproduction, drafting a massive 10-page memo when the client actually just needed a 1-page summary. Then, waiting. Think of all that billable time lost when matters just stall because instructions are vague or you're waiting on approvals. Then we see unnecessary processing, reworking documents or duplicating efforts just because the handoffs weren't clear. Next up, defects and errors, which, let's be honest, carry massive reputational risks. Then there's underutilized talent. This is a huge one. Having a senior partner do a routine task that a junior could easily handle if only a proper workflow existed. And finally, transport and information movement. The classic version control chaos or siloed information where no one knows where the latest draft is. Legal project management actually gives you the methodology to spot and eliminate every single one of these. Let's move on to Section 3, Value-Based ROI in Action, and look at a real-world illustration. Let's break down this 1 million Rand debt collection example from the Pocket Advisor material. We've got 2 clients who both need outstanding debt recovered. For client A, it's just a standard engagement. They pay a $200,000 legal fee to recover $850,000. Simple enough. But for client B, the firm actually charges more, $300,000. But why? Because this isn't just a collection, it's a highly structured intervention into the client's internal debtor management. The firm is providing templates, escalation triggers, and reporting. So the direct debt recovery is the exact same, $850,000, but the added value is that the firm just prevented future losses and delinquencies for client B. Let's look at the actual math for client A. The firm recovered $850,000 for a $200,000 fee. When you factor that against the original 1 million Rand exposure they had, the client's net position actually yields a negative 14.8% return on their legal investment. That is a transaction, not a partnership. And honestly, It just leaves the client scrutinizing the value of that $200,000 invoice. Now, contrast that with client B. Sure, client B paid $100,000 more in upfront fees. But because the firm delivered that $850,000 recovery, plus the massive strategic value of preventing future losses, client B walked away with a positive 35.3% ROI. Let me tell you, client B is the one who renews the retainer, client B is the one referring all their industry colleagues to you, and client B never queries the invoice, because the value is communicated to them in the language of business returns, not just a list of billable hours. All right, heading into section 4, auditing your profitability. Before you do anything else, there are 5 critical questions you need to ask yourself. Question 1, do you actually know your realization rate by specific matter type? I don't mean your aggregate rate across the whole practice area. I mean for specific matters. If you only know the aggregate, you're managing your profitability completely blind. You could have one highly profitable matter totally subsidizing 3 loss-making ones, and you wouldn't even know it. Question 2. At which stage do your fixed fee overruns typically occur? When a budget completely blows up, do you know exactly where in the life cycle it happened? Was it during discovery, during drafting? If you can't locate the specific stage where the waste is happening, it is mathematically impossible to eliminate it. Question 3. What percentage of build time do clients actually query or try to reduce? If you're seeing persistent write-downs on your invoices, that is a massive red flag. And it doesn't necessarily mean your rates are too high. It's a blaring signal that the true value of the work is just not being communicated effectively to the client. Question 4. Do you have a documented scope change protocol? You know, for when a client calls up and asks for just one more quick thing, what happens then? Without a clear, documented protocol for fixed fee matters, scope creep just happens invisibly. And that extra cost? It's silently absorbed right into your firm's cost base, eating your profit margin alive. And finally, question 5. Could your most profitable matter type actually be handled by a more junior team? If the answer is yes, but it isn't happening because you haven't properly documented the workflows for those juniors to execute, wow, that is a massive scaling opportunity left on the table. You're essentially paying senior rates for junior work internally. This leads us perfectly into section 5, the LPM operational solution, the foundation for fixing all of this. All of this points back to when defining idea, and I absolutely love this quote. Value-based pricing is not a pricing strategy. It is an operational posture. I really want that to sink in for a second. You cannot simply wake up tomorrow and decide to start value pricing. You must know exactly what you deliver, precisely how long it takes, and exactly what it costs internally, so you can confidently communicate that value to a CFO in terms they care about. Legal project management is what gives you that operational posture. So how do you actually build that posture? Well, the source material lays out the ILPM's 4-step framework. First, you have to scope matters crystal clearly before you even think about throwing out a price. Second, you build robust matter templates to standardize workflows and drastically reduce internal production time. Third, you systematically identify and eliminate those common categories of legal wastage we discussed earlier. And fourth, you learn to communicate value in business language rather than getting bogged down in legal jargon. This exact structured framework forms the core curriculum of the Pocket Advisor Applied LPM course, treating pricing and profitability as the main event, rather than just an afterthought. To actually put all this into practice, the Pocket Advisor material highlights their Applied LPM course. They are Africa's only ILPM accredited provider, which is huge. The course is a 15-module online program featuring live weekly facilitation by Nicolene Showman Lau, who brings over 20 years of experience to the table. The goal is to earn internationally recognized LPP or LPA certifications. The material notes that the standard investment is R$9,500, but there's a strategic option to reduce that by R$1,000 just by attending their introductory LPM 101 session first. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. Are you going to keep trading time for money indefinitely, just hoping things will somehow get more profitable on their own? Or are you ready to stop guessing on fixed fees, eliminate your hidden waste, and take the deliberate operational steps required to scale a firm that truly compounds in value? The choice between exhausting linear growth and profitable scaling is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now it's time to take that critical first step.